So let's say a rapper signs to a label, gets $1 million, right? Okay. That $1 million, most of these rappers are paying their manager 20%. So 20% is $200K, right? Most of them are also paying the lawyer $5 and the business manager $5. So that's 10% for them and 20 for the manager. So it's 30% total commissions that has to come off the top. So of the $1 million, take off $300K, right? Because that's 30%. So you're at $700K. Of that $700K, you are now in the tax bracket that's taxed around like 48%. Let's just call it 50, right? Cut that in half. $350. So $1 million is $350K net. That's what you net. This is before you spend $1. The reason why motherfuckers go broke is because they get $1 million and think they have $1 million to spend.
To all my YouTubers, thank you for watching me. Hit that subscribe button and the notification button. Let me know in the comments what you think about this particular video with Russ, because this is a scenario that unfortunately happens to too many artists. But let's get into the video and let me tell you about how not to end up in this particular situation. So the scenario that Russ just described as to what would happen to you if you got $1 million deal, that's just one scenario and that's one way it could go. So I'm gonna give you another scenario to make sure that you don't end up like some of these artists that Russ is talking about in his example, right? So let's run all those numbers back and say you get $1 million. First of all, and Russ talked about this himself, you shouldn't be giving a lawyer 5% of the thing, you know, unless that's the, you know, unfortunately, if you have a lawyer negotiate your record deal and that record deal connection came through the lawyer, you may not have a choice, but try to get that down. There's no way of doing, you know, just pay them hourly. They have an hourly fee, they have a retainer fee, maybe get a monthly, whatever. But that's one way to write it, this off on your taxes and actually reduce your taxes from what I was talking about. But let's take lawyer out of the equation. So let's take 5% away. So you got 5% extra. The business manager, yes, you may have to pay 5%. Your regular manager may be 20, but maybe you can consolidate those two and give your regular manager 15% and then get the business manager 5%. So now you're at 20%, so you have $800,000 left. Yes, you would probably be closer to that 50% tax bracket if you claim that money personally. Now, if you create a company that owns your brand, now you're in a completely different tax bracket. You're like 30-some%, especially, you know, I guess, you know, business-wise, it's the only thing that came out, you know, the decent thing came out of the Trump administration, that lower the corporate taxes. So if you set up an LLC, now you're not going to be taxed 50% of it. But guess what? That lawyer fee, let's say that ends up being $50,000 or, you know, $20,000 over a year because you're paying them $5,000 a month on retainer. That's an expense. So you write that off against all those you know, expenses, or against that $800,000 in revenue that you just made. Pay yourself as a owner of only $100,000 for the year. That's a great salary, right? Okay, fine. Give yourself $150,000. So you can maybe buy that nice car because you think you need it for a video or whatever. So pay yourself $150,000 out of the $800,000. Then use the remainder to continue to invest into your brand besides what your label is doing, and all those different contractors that you will hire, maybe additional marketing help, additional that, additional this, that can all be written off against that $800,000. So you end up with a lot more. You've reinvested the money into your brand, and you can potentially blow yourself up even further beyond what the label is going to be doing. Maybe you invest in the real estate, other things that the label doesn't have a 360 deal situation on, right? So you be smart about it. And if you take that $800,000 and let's say you just used it to pay yourself and the lawyer on the retainer fee, and you only paid yourself $150,000 a year in salary, which is a great salary to have, that gives you like, 4 to 5 years of salary you can get out of $800,000. But most artists don't think that way because they think they need to buy a house or whatever the case is. And maybe you do need to buy a house, fine. So there's also a way that maybe if you make that house into, you know, your studio as well, or you can write a third off of that mortgage against your expenses if that becomes your place of business. Maybe your manager works out of there. You make one of the rooms his office. The basement becomes the studio. There's just so many ways you could save your money so you do not end up in a scenario that Russ described, because that is very real for a lot of artists. And yes, when you're paying percentages to your business manager or your regular manager or the lawyer, because that's the type of deal you got and you couldn't get the lawyer out of a percentage-based relationship, then you're paying that on gross, meaning you're paying them out on the $1 million before it's net, before any expenses are made, before it gets taxed, right? So in a way that also gives you a lower amount to pay taxes on, essentially. But if you set up an LLC and you sign, the label gives a deal to your company, not you as a person, you could save a lot more money, and it gives you the ability to invest a lot more behind your brand and take it to the next level, or diversify your money into different business lines or industries that you're passionate about outside of music, as long as that label does not have a 360 control over those different business lines. So let me know if you guys have any questions on that. And give this to any artist that's about to get a deal, or share it with somebody. Make sure you save this information for later. This is going to come in very, very handy. We help a lot of our clients sort of through this representation. Once they get into a situation where they can get a label deal, I'm definitely happy to jump on those calls with our clients, because I want to make sure that they get the best out of it, because it'll be the stupidest thing you could do to end up in a situation that Russ described. But big ups to Russ, because he gives a lot of value out there to the industry and to independent artists, telling them how they should kind of navigate through the waters of the music industry so they don't get screwed in the long run. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. And as always, I will see you tomorrow for another day of Music Biz Daily. Peace.